Your first 30 days as a contract manager are some of your most critical to get right. Now, inevitably, it's going to be hard to come in with an absolute focus on strategy. And there will be an element of just getting stuck in, especially if you're joining an immature team or even a Greenfield team. So a team that hasn't been built yet, or a team where you may have some assets or very little assets, and we'll come on to what assets are in just a moment. So setting out your first 30 days following these 4 key activities might just be the best thing you can do. There's a strong case that relationships are vital for you here. And there are 2 relationships that I would prioritize over any others. And I hope this goes without saying, but I will say it nonetheless, that you should be building relationships at all times with everyone. And those 2 relationships are the CFO and the general counsel. So what does the CFO care about? They're going to care about how much they're spending with their suppliers. They're going to care about risk. So the CFO largely is going to be responsible for growth across the entire business. If we have risks emerging within our supply chain, that is a massive concern for us. So your CFO is there to mitigate risk, push growth, to reduce cost where possible. And a contract manager can certainly help with all of those by exposing risks that are in the contracts, mitigating risks in the contracts by placing clauses or amending via redlining during the negotiation phase of a contract review the supply terms to reduce risk, by documenting and pulling data out of those contracts that is usable. So this could be really basic things, such as what is the notice period and end date, and when do we need to trigger the renewal process to ensure that we aren't auto-renewing on contracts that we no longer need. And it could also be that you as the contract manager will implement tech that will enable the CFO to have visibility, control, and compliance of all of these matters without them having to do anything or even ask you. They can just go in, see it, believe it, and do stuff with it. Now, the general counsel relationship is vital. The general counsel will likely be a escalation route for you, whether there's a contract dispute of some sort with an existing supplier, or whether you just need a soundboard to share some of your ideas and thoughts about how you can improve your contract assets, which we'll come on to in just a moment. Activity number 2 centers around your contract review process. Now, what is a contract review process? In short, it's the moment you get a request to review a contract from someone within your business to the moment you sign that contract, which might be with one of the C-suite, a director or owner of that business. How do we get from request from someone in the business to review that contract to signature? What you want to do is firstly understand what you have in your business already, understand how effective it is. Is this working? Are there any blockers? Are there any concerns from users of legal as a service here within your business about the time it takes to get to signature? And is there anything that's going to prohibit you from doing something or not doing something? And this could be whether it's regulatory or legislative. Maybe it's doing a review of data protection and then bringing in your data protection officer. How do you tie all of that into your review process? And my advice to you here is the only way you're going to know how this is working is if you get stuck in and you start reviewing contracts as soon as possible from start to finish, so that you can understand where things are going wrong, maybe where things aren't quite working, and then you could also start talking to other people, so users of the service within the business, to understand their frustrations, compile this information, document it, start going through this in a very logical manner, start thinking about how you can improve it, bounce ideas off of your general counsel on this, and then after day 30, through to whatever time frame you have, it may be the end of the year, maybe the first 6 months, start making those changes and improvements within your business. Activity number 3 revolves around contract assets. And I'm not going to do this justice in this video, and I will cover all of these in way more detail in a future video, so make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. But in short, this centers around your contract playbooks. This is your go-to document for any review. It sets out what you can accept in terms of a contract, what you can't accept, what the escalation routes are, and what types of contracts or categories of supply apply to each of the positions you have within the playbook. You have your contract templates, which are all of your documents that become a contract. So it could be your master services agreement, your data processing addendum, your non-disclosure agreement. And you also have your clause bank. Your clause bank is a selection of clauses that you can insert either into your supplier terms to better suit your positions that maybe are set out in your playbook, or it may include clauses that you can interchange with your own templates. whenever a supplier pushes back against it. And number 4, genuinely, this is my favorite, and I'm not saying this because this is a gatekeeper video and we make tech, but it's evaluating your tech stack. And how I look at this is, as a contract manager in my last role, I had so many different tools and pieces of software that I would use to review contracts, to the point that I'd have 2 monitors full of stuff, whether it's my playbook, if it's the contract terms, if it was email, Slack to have internal, external communications. I would then have SharePoint, I'd have Word documents to capture non-compliance. Oh, it was an absolute nightmare. And really the dream here is to condense as many of those pieces of software down to 1, 2, or 3. Really, the fewer pieces of software that you have to rely on in order to complete your contract reviews, the better. And this is why it's so important to have that relationship with your CFO, because activity 4 and 3 could cost a bit of money, and if you don't have their back-in, that you're going to potentially save them risk, save them on cost, or at least shore up the visibility concerns, they're never going to say, hey, here you go, here's a budget, go away with it and go make this happen. So this is how I would structure my first 30 days as a contract manager to really get the most out of the role, to set us up for success moving forwards. And then we can start thinking about, hey, this is the strategic vision of what this team, whether it's just me or you, or whether we're going to build it out, how are we going to operate? Are we going to use alternative legal suppliers? Are we going to bring other people in? This is what our North Star is. This is how we align to the business. You can start to figure that out from day 30 onwards. Once you've got these 4 activities locked down, understood, evaluated, and analyzed. I'll leave a link to the article I wrote over on our Gatekeeper blog down in the description. So check that out when you can, just to get a little bit more perspective than I can give in a video. And my friends, I'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye.